Hello everyone, welcome back. So in our Selenium with Java series, we are looking into the testng features, right? So today we are going to see how we can utilize the testng listener. Okay, so testng listener is one of the what you call testng feature in which we can guide couple of tasks before executing our actual test case and after executing the actual test case. It is very much similar to our after test, before test, after method, method, the annotations what we have, right? It is pretty much similar, but then it has its own what you call class which testng provides. Let me just show you that. So as you can see, there are several interfaces that allow to modify the testng behavior. It means that we can even guide couple of stuff which we can do before the execution of the test case and after the execution, right? So if you go to this ITestListener, you will see there are, let me go to this Java doc. So as you can see, the ITestListener, and this has actually couple of methods are present. So these are the methods actually which it is giving. Like as you can see, the on finish means it will be like invoked after all the test cases have run. So it is pretty much similar to your after shoot we have, right? So it is kind of that. Then on start, it is definitely it will be executed before all of your classes that is instantiated and all even configuration methods. So this is the very beginning of your test. If you're mentioning any of the task inside this on test, then it will be executed at the beginning, and on finish will be executed at the end of your all the test cases executed, even the configuration methods. On test failed with success percentage. So this is basically, it happens like, let's say that if you have a couple of steps in your application in that particular test case, and then you can specify certain percentage actually, like if it is okay, 70% of my test case is finished, then you execute something whatever written inside this particular method. But normally we don't really use, because if one of the step is failing, then we normally make the fail the entire test case. So this is rarely we are using that. On test failure, if your test case is failing, then you can execute whatever the content is written inside this. So as you can see, the on start and on finish is very much similar to your after shoot and before shoot, but these are based on certain conditions. If your test case is failing, means that first your at the rate test execution will happen. Once that is finished, that particular test method, then on test failure, if your test case is failed, if your test case is skipped, then this particular method will be executing. If your test case is, let's say, passed, then it on test success will be executed. So at the same time, this success skipped failure will not execute. Any one of these will be executed depending on your status of that particular test case. Okay, on test start, it is exactly at the beginning of your test case. So let's say you are executing one login method related test case, then just before to executing that test case, on test start will be executing. So if you want to initialize any objects or anything, you can mention inside this on test start so that it can execute. It's pretty much, I can say, similar to your before method actually, on test start. Okay, so we will be using all these interface methods actually. So these are just the abstract methods. We need to implement these methods. Okay, see, you can see this is ITestListener. I means it is an interface in Java. Okay, so by using this, we will be creating a new class file, then we will be implementing this particular interface, and then have all these methods implemented so that the test case can take based on the requirement actually. Let me show you that. So what I can do for this, I will be creating a new package here. So create a new package. Let's give this testng listener manager some name. I'm giving here testng listener manager. Okay, now under this and always make a good practice of making it everything. So let me do one thing. I will remove this one and I will just say listeners. Okay, a package. Now under this listeners package, I will be creating a new Java class which I will be giving testng listener manager. Okay, now here let me add it to the GitHub repo. Now here what I'm going to do, implements, what I will be implementing, I test listener. Now here what I'm going to do, I will right click on this and I will say generate and implement methods. Now you can see all those methods which we have seen in this documentation, right? For the ITest listener, all these methods I'm going to implement it because this is an interface, right? So select everything so that it will be, yeah, you can see everything got implemented here. Now these are just the blanks, right? I need to now implement each one of this. Inside I need to write the logic actually here. So what I'm going to do, let's say that on test start, I said that this will be executing just before any of the test cases you are executing. So let me just implement this one here. So I will say test case. Okay, I'm giving something here, and then I will say here result. I will be using this result keyword dot get method. You can see get name, I think it is get method dot get name. Okay, so here dot get method name. So if you give this one, what this will do, this will give you the test case name actually here. So I'll just say plus, and then I will say started. Okay, you will see the output, then you will understand what exactly I'm trying to do here. Let me just split this one so that you can see entirely. Okay, so this is my on test start. Now think about this, if my test case is getting passed, so what I'm going to do, so here the same thing I can take and I will be writing here and I will say test case, whatever that test case name, passed. Okay, I will be writing like this. Now if it is failing, let's say that if my test case is failing, so here what I'm going to do, failed, and I will be adding another one. I will say because of, oops, sorry, because of, what is that, I have to provide the reason as well, right? So I will say result, whatever the result it is coming, and then I will say get throwable. So this will give me the uh, get throwable method. So this will give me the exception actually why this particular test case got failed. I will show you that as well. Now the same thing, if my test case is skipping, let's say that my test case got skipped, so here I will say skipped because of this particular exception. Fine. Now for the failure percentage, now for this, as I told you, you can give certain percentage, like here you can see on test failed with success percentage, so that whatever that percentage will be there, it will be printing, else it will just remove that particular line. So whatever you can print, you can print it, or else you can just ignore this one here. Okay, for the timeout actually, so this is basically if you are giving certain timeout, so we have a timeout attribute, right, for the test ng. Let's say that within that timeout your test case didn't execute it, your test case is taking longer than the timeout, then at that moment whatever the stuff you will write inside this particular method, that will get executed for you. Okay, now on start actually, so here you will see two different stuff is there. One is on test start, this is just before your test case is executing, and on start it is, as the documentation says, that this is very beginning actually. I mean even before all of the configuration methods even called, so that time you can this particular method will be called. So here what I can do, I can just write like this, and instead of this test case, what I can do here, I will say, so here I will say context name. I'm just printing this context dot get name. You can see there is a get name. Okay, fine. So these are the details you need to mention here. Now, so the question comes now, okay, we have implemented this particular, what you call, ITest listener into by creating a new class, right? How do I link it to a particular test case actually? So for this, what we can do, I'll just create two Java classes. So for this, let me just take any of our, so maybe probably this two. I'll copy this one and I will paste it in here into this. Okay, let me do one thing actually, so couple of things I will make it as pass and couple of I will make it as fail. So here, Now let's see. So as I told, and I don't want this extends, let me just remove at this moment so that we don't get confused with this one. Okay, so now the test engine listener method is there, and then there are two test cases are there, which is having five different test methods. Now here, how do I link? So there are two ways I can link it. Let's go to this test engine documentation. So here it is telling at this moment, let's forget about this command line. There are two ways you can just get it. One is you can mention it the listeners at the test class level. That is one way. The another way is using the testng.xml file, and even you can get it from command line, which we will see another alternate from the pom.xml. So we have three ways. Let's say that I want to just use it a particular test case or test class. So let's first see this one. So here what I'm going to do, listeners, actually here I will be doing capital L listeners. So this is one attribute that is used across the class level. Normally the attributes we are using it into the test method level, right, onto this method level, but we can use it into the class level, this one. Now what we will be mentioning inside this, we will be mentioning about all the what you call the test engine listener. Another thing you need to keep it in mind, it's not mandatory to have only one listener class. You can have multiple test engine listener methods or the classes, and you can implement this test listener. At this moment we are just looking into one which is sufficient for any of the selenium based framework if you are building it. Okay, so let me give the path of this. Because it is into the same package, I can directly mention the testng listener method here. Method dot class. You need to make like this. Now here what will happen? Let's do one thing actually. First thing is that let me show you step by step. At this moment, I'm just running this particular test case. See what should be the output. So here you can see there are two test methods run, and which is absolutely fine, and you can see the output here as well, which is very straightforward, right? Now let me enable this listener and execute it. So I'll do the same logic, run test case, and now you can see I'm getting lot of different outputs actually here. So this is basically my project name. Okay, this whatever it is coming, it is the project name. That is nothing but my context name. Let me show you that as well. So oops, if I go here, so you can see at the bottom on test start, right, on start, that is start, and then the context name, and this is nothing but my project name. The second thing is that on test start, I told you, right? So on test start, what we have mentioned, test case, the method started. So test case login started here. Now the actual test case. Okay. After that, it is giving me the status. See, on test success only executed because my test case is executed properly. That's why the pass scenario is coming here. The fail and skip scenario didn't execute here. Now it is going to the second test case, which is my what? Which is the on test tc report, right? So it is coming here. Now it is going the test case, actual test case. Now it is giving me the report, actually the result based on pass, fail or skipped. Now the context end is coming. And now you will see here one thing is that this particular listener, whatever I've specified, this is very much specific to this particular test case. Okay, or this test class. I cannot execute it here actually because I didn't link it. What you can do, one good approach is that you can just copy this one and then paste it here. Now based on the status, it will execute here. So individually you're specifying that. You can see now the test case skipped. Why? Because of result.getThrowable. Do you recall this one? Result.getThrowable. That is what it is coming. So you can customize the output as well. That is what the beauty of a test engine listener here. So you can get everything in detailed way actually. You can even send, and this is not just limited to sending to a what you call to your console output. You can keep it into a notepad. You can use the properties file, or you can use some log4j to send all these details into a log file. Even you can send it to an extent report if you are using that. Even you can edit your emailable report also. So we have something called as a reporter class. By using that, we can even edit our HTML report as well. We will see that in our upcoming tutorials. Okay, so this is the way we can customize our output by using this test engine listener actually here. But one limitation with this one is that if you have, let's say that 50 different class files are there, test class files are there, you have to go and then update everything, right? Listeners, which is not a good practice, right? So do we have any approach where we can just write it once and will be applicable for all the test methods? Yes, we do have, and that is what it is telling on the testng XML level actually. So you can create one testng.xml file and you can include all the test classes that you are going to execute, and then one testng listener will be applicable for all the test classes. Let me show you that. So for this, what I'm going to do, I'll copy this one and I will paste it into this, and let me rename this one. So I will say testng underscore listener, so that this will be applicable to the testng listener. Now here what I'm going to do, I'll just create one test file only, and instead of this I will say listeners, and the same thing, let me add another test case also, or test class, okay, which is having three test methods. Okay, now here how do I link it? I told you, right, there is an element and that is nothing but listeners. You can see, you can provide the listener name actually here, so you can just say listener, and you can see it is auto populating about the class name. So you have to now provide the exact path of that particular testng manager file which we have created. So I will say dot testng testng manager. Okay, and let me make it as a short format. That's that simple. Now you can have any number of test tags or any number of test class files, that doesn't matter, just keep adding your test cases here, and then the same listener will be applicable for everyone. Now you can see I have disabled this one at the test class level. Now let me execute this testng xml and see what happens. And as you can see, there are two test levels it executed, or two test classes, two got passed, and you can see the output here. The entire output is generated here completely. It is now, if you copy paste into any what you call notepad, you can see all these things and how many test cases got executed. 3 plus 2 from two different test classes, one got failed, one got skipped, three got passed. And if you go here, you will see the result as well. That's the beauty of what you call combining all the test cases in the testng xml, and you can execute it. Okay, so I mean, this is actually to an extent it is helping us, because we can just mention, and most of the time we are using this testng xml concept, right, while executing our test cases. For some, actually they don't really use the testng xml file to execute the test cases. Okay, and they might be using actually what you call, let's say that they are using some Jenkins pipelining, or else they are executing it from Maven command line, which they don't prefer to execute it from the testng xml file. They will say that okay, all the testng methods I need to execute it, but I don't want to include in here. No worries, actually there is a one short way where you can specify this listener, and then all the test methods whatever it is present into your entire framework, it will be picking up that testng listener actually. So the third way which I was talking about is to have the listener name into the pom.xml here. How do we do that? Let me show you that as well. So which is coming from command line. Command line is bit tricky because you have to use the Java command line, which we normally don't use for Selenium execution, right? Normally this is the command where people are using mostly if they are using the Java unit testing or Java API testing or anything. But for us, we are using Maven project, so we won't be using this particular logic here. We similar logic but in a different way I will be showing you. So what we are going to do, so let me just show you another link which is kind of giving you a detailed explanation of that. So if I go, that URL is this one, and then if I search here listeners, and you will see it is giving a good documentation about this. And this is basically with the help of your Maven Surefire plugin. We have already seen about how to use the Surefire plugin in our testng grouping session. So if you're not sure how to execute that, you can look back into that tutorial and then you can get more idea on that. So you will see here which is giving a properties. So inside the Maven Surefire plugin, you will have something called as configuration, which we already used it, right, to specify the XML files here. Okay, you can use this one, and also you can specify inside that properties. Okay, inside properties you can specify certain property, testng properties, I mean to say. So if you see, if I show you the property or maybe command line, let me show you that. So here, yeah, you can see all these properties. So these are the testng properties, not this one actually. Yes, this is what actually. So these are all different kind of testng properties they are using actually. Any one of these you can specify in this properties element actually inside the property. So one of that is you can see here. Okay, so you can see there is something called as listener. You can see listener. So this listener actually I can use as a property name. You can see property name, and in the value I can specify the complete path of that particular listener class. Let me show you that. So what I'm going to do inside this configuration, I will create one properties element. Okay, and inside this I will create one property individual tag actually here. So if I do this, and here I will be giving name. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, listener I will say. So property name I have given, so now I need to give the value actually here. Okay, so this value has to be the complete path of your this particular class name. So I will be taking this one, and then I will put dot. You can see it is even auto intelligence about what is exactly inside this listener package, which is this testng listener manager. Okay, so for this, at this moment, let me just disable this one. Oops, this shoot xml file. And what I'm going to do, I will be taking what you call from the command line. I will be executing certain test cases from the command line. For an instance, let's say that I want to execute this tc1. Okay, or maybe let's execute this tc2, which will be holding pass fail and skip scenario, right? So what I'm going to do, I can take a terminal or a command prompt, or else inside this IntelliJ I can open the terminal which is internal to this one. So I will say maven test. We know this command, right? Maven command line. Here what I'm going to do, because specific test case I'm executing. See, I have like nearly 50 to 60 test cases are there. I don't want to execute at this moment. If you don't want to execute a specific test case, you can use Maven test. It will execute all the at the rate test methods into your framework. But we normally don't want to do this one. So there is a command called -d test equal to, you need to give the entire path of the particular test class. So here, let me just go back to this one, control C, control V, and I will say dot tc2. So this is my actual test case, right? Let's say that I want to execute for test case 1 as well. So what I'm going to do here, comma, I will say test case 1 as well. Oops, it executed. Okay, so let me just execute the test case 1 as well. So let me just do this one. So there are 5 test cases got executed, but one got failed, one got skipped. Let's see the result. Yeah, you can see, okay, there is some error it is coming, but that doesn't, you don't need to worry about that. You can see here how many test cases we have, a total. So if you see in the test case 2, I have 3 test cases are there. In the test case 1, tc1, I have 5. So total test cases ran 5. One got failed, one got skipped. And if you see the entire result, you can see here as well those things. See, here you can see. Now let's see, yeah, you can see tc2 got skipped because of this particular exception. TC3 got failed because of the arithmetic exception, because we intentionally make that test case fail, right? This one, so arithmetic exception. So 3 should be passed. I should see 3 test cases should be passed. So oops, sorry. Let's come back here, and then here you can see, so the first test case got passed. You can see TC4 got passed, then TC login got passed, TC report got passed. Sorry, this one TC. So 3 test cases got passed. If it is failed or skipped, if it is even giving you the output of that why exactly this is got failed. So that is the way actually you can get all the details. So as we learned three different types of ways we can integrate the test engine listener with our test cases. You can specify with at the class level. You can specify at the testng XML level by using this listener's attribute, or we can say the listener's element. Another way is that directly you can use it inside this Surefire plugin so that you can execute it from the command line. So hope this session is helpful. I will be providing the two links which we have discussed so that you can go back and look into this documentation. This is the official documentation. I just spent some time to get more into details so that it can help you guys to understand more into this. And this can be helpful if you are kind of maintaining a framework or even into the interviews as well. They kind of ask you how many different ways you can execute the test cases, so you should be in a position to answer those questions. So hope this particular session is helpful. Stay tuned, we will be seeing lot of test engine features, interesting features, and also we will be seeing the Selenium framework designing as well. So do subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.